Okay. Hello, friends. So today we have Parshuram with us, and he's an agile coach. We will going to hear a lot of about him today. And today we have just touched base on a very different but very important topic. I think that's the base of whole agile. That's what I believe. And yeah, I mean that empiricism, the way of life, will be the quotation for us. And today Parshu with us, short form of Parshuram, Parshu with us. Uh, so Parshu, first of all, thank you for coming over here and picking up this difficult but important topic for all of us. So I really appreciate that you have picked this topic, and I'm sure with this particular topic, a lot of our viewers will get to know about this important thing. And yeah, welcome, Parshu.
Hey, thank you very much, Sunand. It is pleasure to talk to you and use Career Tax as a platform to reach out to multiple people and share my knowledge and also learn from people who watch Career Talks. Thanks for having me. It is a privilege to know you and know Career
Thank you.
Talks.
Thanks a lot, Parshu. Okay, so you want to share your deck?
Yes, yes. All right. Okay, just a second. Are you able to see?
Yes,
Brilliant.
yes, I can see.
Brilliant, guys. All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me here to Sunand. And we're going to talk about empiricism. Before I get into the topic and introduce myself, I'm going to start with a small story. A story about a 19-year-old boy who was from a small town. He doesn't know how to speak English. In his second year in his engineering, he had to present a topic in his English lab. He miserably failed. He miserably failed, meaning he was not able to pronounce well. He was not able to communicate what he was thinking. He was not, was able to talk standing on the stage. That guy or that particular boy has failed 8 times before he successfully delivered a presentation on stage. Do you know what he used to do every time he was not successful? He used to ask his friends, hey, tell me what was wrong. Their friends used to in a friendly way, they used to kind of make fun of him by the word aperture. On the 8th time, he delivered a phenomenal presentation that everybody appreciated. Right? What he did, he transparently asked for help. He inspected what is going wrong and adapted based on the feedback that was given by his friends. That is what we are going to learn today. And the person is me, Parshuram, and I went through that phase, and I am here in front of you to deliver my whole life experience about empiricism and how it works. All right, let's get in. To know, I'm sure you would be curious to know me. It's a very brief introduction about myself. I'm a hungry to learn and exploring person. I any opportunity that comes to my plate, I kind of try to learn and explore. I don't shy away, right? That's how I met Sunand. That's how we are doing this today, right? To reach out to you with the best content we have. And most of the times, a social person, yes, I'm also a common man like you. I need some my personal space when I'm down, but when I'm not speaking to anybody, that means I'm down. And mostly humble. Sometimes point number one, when I'm like being hunger showcases me otherwise that I'm not humble. Right? My career journey is this. I was a full stack developer, promoted as a lead or architect, and then took a diversion in my career to be a Scrum Master. And then currently I work as an Agile coach. As part of my job, I teach, mentor, facilitate, coach development teams, Scrum Masters, product owners, managers, and senior managers. Now currently at a company called Coros in Bangalore. And as part of my social work, I create opportunities to collaborate, learn, and share through the community called Agile Network India. I personally thank Agile Network India. I presented a talk there that gave me an opportunity to meet Sunant and deliver a talk here. All right, let's get on. Empiricism. Right, I'm going to quickly take you through what are the 4 key takeaways that you're going to learn through in this session in the next 30 to 40 minutes. You'll learn what is empiricism is, and then how empiricism helps. I have a real world case study or my real world experience, how I use empiricism day to day. And number 3 is like, what stops us to be empirical? That is a third thing which we are going to learn. And then finally, in a software development process, what are the metrics that drive towards empiricism? These are the 4 things which we are going to learn together. And within the topic, if you have any questions, put it in the comment box. I will personally go through that and reply to you. All right, the next one. Before I go into the topic, let's reflect upon what Jeff says about this. Embrace the unknown. That's where learning lies. If you are too afraid to learn, you will never get any better. This is the key to being successful. I'll stop there. Yes, at Scrum, embrace change. That is what Jeff says, but I take till to being successful. To be successful, you have to embrace unknown. You have to experiment and learn and adapt yourself. That's the way of life. That's how it is. All right, let's go and see what are the examples. Before I talk about empiricism, let's try to understand what is a defined process control versus an empirical process control. I'll take a pause here. You take if you have a piece of paper or a pencil, just think of, what in your day-to-day work habits, what is a defined process? I take a pause here. You grab your pen or paper, like think of an item or think of what you do. What is a defined process in what you do? Right? Here it is. A defined process is almost a repeatable and a predictable job. I'll give you a couple of examples. Every one of us, use shoes, right? We use lace shoes where we put in the shoes, tie the lace. That process is always same. That's not going to change. 100 years before that was the case. Today it was the case. 100 years later, if the lace shoe exists, that is going to be the case. And most of us drive cars. While driving cars, if we find a flat tire, what we do? The same process. Like you take your wrench, open the bolts, take out your flat tire, replace it with a new flat tire, and tighten up. That process, it's all same. So the process in that the steps are known. You understand the conditions perfectly, and what are the desired outcomes are going to be, and you repeat it. That is a defined process. Even making a filter coffee is a defined process, and chocolate factory runs on a defined process. Construction runs on a defined process. Now let us try to understand from when empiricism started and what is empirical process control is. Before that, again, question or a thought for you. Do you want to think back and see when does empiricism had really started? Yeah. I'll break the silence. Empiricism is alive from 330 BC. Right? Empiricism is a theory that states the knowledge comes only or primarily from sensory experiences. Right? What are the sensory experiences? Sight, hear, taste, touch, smell. Unless you experiment and experience, that doesn't become empirical. Right? You You experience something, you experiment something, you experience it and try to understand, oh, does it really fit in or doesn't fit? Empiricism emphasizes the role of empirical evidence in the formulation of ideas. So I'm a kind of person, anything people say, right? I don't really believe. Immediately what I see is look for data. Hey, you're saying it right, but what is the data behind it? What proves it? So what I'm really looking for it is like, where have you experimented? What is it? What is the data behind that this idea proves? That is what empirical is. So now just take a step back and see what all you do is really empirical. What are all you are surrounded with is really empirical. You know, people from the software development will immediately say, hey, yeah, software development process is like highly empirical. We don't know. It is a complex system. It is a flexible system. You know, the requirements are always changing. We need to, yeah. But people not in software, just you know, think about things around you, right? I'll relate with the similar example what we saw in our last slide in defined process control. The flat tire changing mechanism is still the same. However, if you have noticed the equipments that are being used around that flat tire changing mechanism, let it be jockey or let it be the tire quality, all of them have empirically innovated, improved in a way that actually makes our life or job easier. Today, jockey, you need not manually operate. It comes with a, you know, hydraulic system. You just need to press once, it lifts the car. All right, empirical. I hope that makes sense. Anything, even software development life cycle, right? See, the life cycle did not really change, right? However, what we are trying to do is we're trying to squeeze in all of this in a particular time period. Say we call it as feedback loops. Say it could be, you know, certain teams have feedback loop of 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, till like 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. The feedback loop is there and they try to experiment processes and try to inspect and adapt. That is what is empiricism or empirical process control. You try to understand by experimentation. You come to a decision based on an experiment, right? Let us go and see what type of innovations have come through these empirical process, right? I started with empirical is life. You know, what do you know, by looking at this picture, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? You know, if you have babies or if you see babies around you, you know, they teach us empiricism, right? I take an example of my own son. Uh, we have a small step inside, you know, from the hall to the bedroom. Every time he comes in, he taps like this on the, you know, on the any floor before he gets on. What he tries is, hey, is it really correct? Is it there? Is it soft enough or is it hard enough that it can withhold? I can go, right? And at the same time, you know, have you ever seen baby falling down, right? He kind of, you know, puts a balance. So how did they learn? Did you teach it? No. They kind of fell down. They tried to understand, hey, what exactly is the posture they fall so that they are able to be safely land on on the floor instead of just falling down, right? How did they learn? Just think. Again, they kind of experimented on their own and they learned. That is how they got up. That is how they started walking. That is how they started running, right? I have 2 kids, so that's my experience by looking at them. Empiricism. And then, you know, your telephone. There was a big box in 1900s. Now in 2000s, we all, or most of us, can speak with your watch. How it had happened. Innovation driven by empiricism, where people have experimented multiple cycles of, hey, how this is going to happen. And then they failed, they learned from it. And then they created a new piece. They failed, learned from it, created a new piece. And then finally they arrived at, this wrist watch phone. However, future has got a lot more with Meta, right? And in a digital era, if you see, it has started from batch age to CLI age, and what you see, what you get, then seamless transition, and then we are in an AI age where, we are talking about virtually sitting all together in one room and talking about how is that happening? Again, it is based on empiricism. I'll take a pause here to give you a thought process, like what drives empiricism? Have you ever thought about it? What had driven all this, right? Sunand, if you are there, do you want to unmute and just brainstorm about what could have driven empiricism? What drives empiricism?
I think it's a constant learning or zeal to innovate. I think
Zeal
those
to
are the
innovate.
yeah.
Got it.
And as the time progresses, right, the technology is also evolved, right?
Right.
So something might be not possible, let's say 10 years back, but now we
Correct.
evolve that the technology is present, right? So we
Right.
can think about those things. So
Correct.
yeah, I think
Correct.
those are the important drivers.
Right. So when I give my perspective to this, I see a better tomorrow. A visionary of better tomorrow is what drives empiricism. Right? I want to reduce, hey, I'm a lazy person. I want to reduce something. I don't want to do this work tomorrow. How do I shorten the effort? I need to innovate. I tried to innovate. Now it is in a different level. Innovation is driven by empiricism, and vision to innovate is what drives the empiricism. All right. Going ahead. We all spoke. Everybody knows who are Scrum Masters or people learning Scrum. They all know like 3 pillars of empiricism is transparency, inspection, and adoption. But now you understood the root. Hey guys, this is where it is coming from. It is with us. We in any innovation, not only in innovation, in our daily lives, right? You, for example, you try to attend an interview. Right after the interview, what do you do? Right? You transparently put forward how did the interview go, and then you inspect, say what are the things you did well, you didn't do well, and then you try to learn new things and get prepared for your next interview. Right? That is adaptation. So transparency about what is your vision, what is your goal, and what have you done, enables inspections. Right? What have you done and how it could be done differently. And then that enables adaptation, which triggers new experimentation for the next iteration, right? So you call it software development process, you call it, preparing a coffee, you call it preparing for an interview, right? Everything in this world, what we do is empiricism. That is what is my belief. All right. If you are a person who is empirical and looking for data before you start doing something, yes, to gain data, you have to experiment and take the data. All right. Now I go and give a real life example of empiricism works. I have a very, very strong statement. I've been making it all along. Empiricism really works. What is that? Again, we'll take a 2 to 3 seconds pause. What do you get by seeing this particular picture? Right? It looks like everybody.
Can I just add?
Go ahead, Sana.
It looks like that this person is delegating some task or work, and the people are clueless. What is happening? I can make it with those question
Brilliant.
marks. and the
Brilliant.
papers are here and there, so I can understand like no one has no clue what is about to happen, I think.
Exactly. So this is a real world scenario, right? Where in one of my experiences, uh, there were like multiple teams in that organization had this problem, right? Teams were clueless. What's happening? Why is it happening? And leadership had clueless, like, hey, they are using Scrum, but I don't see anything until the end of the quarter, right? And people are constantly working, and they are like kind of, uh, there's a very good word. They are tired, and they are like they had no clue. They're burnt out, right? Burnt out is the right word, right? They were burnt out. They are working long hours. They had no clue. Nothing is going on their way. Then I joined the team. I was brought in for an engagement. Then I kind of started observing, what are the anti patterns that this team is doing, right? In initial observation, what I've got is like they they know what is to be built, they don't know why is to be built, and then they don't have any kind of milestones. And at the same time, in their sprint planning, they take up some tasks and try to execute. Their daily stand-ups are like a status call where people come and say, hey, I did this, I don't have any update. These are the two phrases that you hear. And then in the sprint review, it is for them, it is a demo. People just show something what they have demoed, and then they skip the retro, right? And then, okay, there needs a change. There was a new uh, you know set of initiative that came in. They did not have a hard deadline, but we kind of had a pseudo deadline. Say within about 8 sprints, we have to get the MVP out, right? That is what was the pseudo deadline that was there. Then I was part of the team. There were 3 questions asked. Do you know what is the goal for you? Then the team defined, right? Hey, this is our product goal. This is what we wanted to achieve in so and so timeline, right? Though we had a pseudo deadline, but with the team, we did not talk about the deadline. We just went in and said, hey, you understand the goal now. Now, let's brainstorm and bring it down to what are the milestones that you want to achieve so that you meet the product goal. So they have jotted down, these are the milestones. Okay, this is very nice. So the third question came in for them. How are you going to achieve this? They're like, no, there's no clue. No, how do you want to guide us? That's where they kind of asked. Okay, again, my question was very simple. All right, you have 4 milestones you have put down. So can we consider this as 4 sprint goals? Let's not worry about the effort, everything. Let's just go ahead blindly. Hey, we are not going to stretch. We are going to be in a sustainable pace. Let us divide it into 4 sprint goals. Okay, now again these 3 questions. These are the sprint goals. Now tell me, to achieve the sprint goals, what are the actions that you need to take? What are the stories that you want to build? And then we spoke about what are the dependencies. They planned on the start of sprint 1, they prepared a goal. They had identified the stories and the dependencies. And everyone expected dependency will get closed, and then they'll start the sprint 2 with the sprint 2 goal. Every day, now instead of task, they're talking about a goal at the sprint planning. First change. Okay. We did not implement any change. We just asked questions. Right. People, ask me this, hey, what was the pushback? How did you try to implement? Hey, I did not go and tell them like, hey, you have to do this. I just asked them, hey, what do you know? What is that we want to derive? Let us understand. I'm being part of the system, right? Then it was just a conversation between us. Instead of I am telling them or teaching them, this is what we do, right? That actually is the process. Then review came in. At the time of review, I gave a quick, teaching session where how do we run a review. Then we actually took the sprint goal, looked at it. We tried to inspect, hey, how did we progress? What is missing? Hey, the dependency which we expected to resolve did not get resolved. Okay, so what else? We identified a couple of things we were not able to achieve. Then okay, let's adapt our sprint goal too, right? We already have one, but let's not worry about it. This is what we learned in the first sprint. Let's adapt it. So likewise, we kind of adapted for the next 2-3 sprints. And then finally at the end of sprint 6, we achieved all the four milestones and we delivered, right? We were still in time with the pseudo deadline, right? Here, people might ask, like, may have like a lot of thought process saying, hey, this will not be the case everywhere. What I rather say is, yes, instead of just going by, hey, a strict deadline or trying to push things, here we take it slow. In this process, right, the beauty is stakeholder is happy that they were part of the process every day, especially the product manager, and the CSMs were there in their reviews. Everybody knew what is the progress. It is easy to communicate to anybody if there is a delay, right? However, yes, it's not easy, but at the same time, I will not say it cannot be achievable. It can be achievable, right? But I don't want to deep dive into the mindset and culture of it. But it can be. We can do it by asking those right questions and guiding the teams instead of command and controlling the teams using empiricism, right? I have a quick summary of what are all the events we used and how did we inspect and adapt. In the sprint planning, we inspected the product backlog items and the items from review, and based on that we adapted the sprint backlog and the sprint goal. In the daily scrum, we used to inspect, hey, how are we going towards the sprint goal, and immediately adapt our sprint backlog or prioritize what needs to be done so that we are on track to achieve the sprint goal. In the sprint review, hey, what is being achieved? That is what we inspect and adapt the product backlog. And sprint retrospective, we inspect the process and how did we see. This is a very good example. One of my friend, his name is Chase, who taught me, right? Sprint review is you showcasing something on stage, and sprint retrospective is like backstage, thinking about how did your planning and preparation process went, right? That you sit in the backstage and try to slice and dice, and then based on the inputs or the inspection you did, you adapt as your working agreements and process improvements and take it back the cycle. For all this, you have to transparently admit yourself as well as your processes and believe in what you do, and do not think otherwise. Yeah, there are like a lot of complex systems around, but if we are all focused on one particular goal and one vision, empiricism is always possible. All right, with this note, I take a pause here. Sunand, do you have any questions before I move to the next section?
No, we are good. Yeah.
Very nice. We go to the next section. That is, though we are empirical, what in the system can stop us, right? The last 15 to 20 minutes, I would have given a high pitch on empirical works, do empirical, Yeah, it's all good. But this is a statement which I learned from one of my mentors, right? Every wall has to fall, right? So yeah, we are empirical, but the system doesn't support every time, right? To be empirical as well, right? What in system can stop us? I have some real world case studies, guys. How many of you know Kodak and Nokia? I think most of us, right? If you are a 90s kid, at least in India, you would have definitely used Nokia phone. And Kodak, we all know they were the market leaders in the film camera, right? So now, I the title of the slide itself says from leaders in the business to no market share. 90% was Kodak's market share. I don't remember the exact timeline, but in 1990s. And today, it just has 7% market share in camera business. Nokia had 50% market share. Today, it has 0.7%. You know why? Right? Let me tell you. People were innovative. They experimented something, but business, we as peoples, right? Multiple people who were involved in the business said, that's cute, but don't tell anyone about it because we are the market leaders. People failed to adapt. They experimented, inspected the market, but they failed to adapt, right? Nokia had wonderful products, right? Even today, Nokia has wonderful products. They were highly innovative, but as per the resources I know, what I have discussed with people, what Nokia says is like they never heard or listened what customers really need. They're always isolated. What other things have stopped them to really adapt in the system is the system was bureaucratic. The system, we in the organization was slow moving and they were isolated. So these kind of things would stop us to be empirical. Okay, I have a statement to make, right? If you're not transparent, there is no point inspecting and adapting. If you are transparent, but if you cannot inspect, you cannot adapt. If you are able to if you are transparent and you are inspecting as well, if you are not adapting, there is no point inspecting and there is no point being transparently experimenting and knowing what is the future or what is the need, right? Let me move forward. Again, real world examples, right? Dependencies and conflicting priorities. So there is an answer here. If it is an online session, this is an activity for all of you, right? Do you know what is the chance if there are 3 friends have to go to a hotel, and what is the probability of they reaching on time every time? On time, it is just 12.5%. Just consider that in your own scenarios, right? Let's we saw a real life example. We say software development, right? In software development, we consider there are 15 dependencies. What is the probability? Right? I don't want to say it is definitely just 1% or 3%. I don't know the number. I'm poor at that. So, but it's definitely not 100%. The probability of hitting the deadline becomes really less, right? Creating the dependencies. Who creates the dependencies, right? Conflicting priorities create the dependency. I give a real world scenario again. In my organization, there's like multiple teams, multiple leaders, right? There was one strategy X. For that strategy, there are two teams working on, right? For strategy 1, that team was it was given to team A, and the second objective was given to team B. But the icing on the cake is team B is dependent on team A, right? But for the person who has given this, for him, both these strategies are important. But here there is a dependency. Now, as soon as one dependency comes in, the chance of hitting the time is 50%. So now, on top of it, there is a conflicting priority. How? For team A, will they have to work on team A's work, or will they have to work on team, resolving the team B's dependency? Isn't it what is our everyday problem is, right? So that is what in this system, this team was transparently putting on everything. They know what is to be derived, what is the goal, and they were inspecting why and what is the things that is being slowed down, but they were not able to adapt because they were highly dependent on the system, and that was created by a conflicting priority, right? So I have a statement to make here. If everything is important, that is nothing is important. If everything is priority, then nothing is priority, right? So these kind of things slows us down to be not empirical, and we will be pushed to be rational, right? Just go by theory. Hey, this is what we estimated. We'll just go and do it, right? By this time, you would have known, right? You take up any frameworks, Save, Scrum, Kanban, everything. What it is all about. You have a shorter feedback loop. You have all the steps or all the principles to create the transparency, and definitely one of the principle in each of that says inspect and adapt. So now, if you understand this empiricism, and if you create that transparency in the system, and you enable inspect and adapt, you will be successful. And at the same time, these kind of dependencies and conflictive priorities will slow us down, right? And then we are going into the final topic of this day, that is metrics that drive empiricism. Yes. So I want to give you some key takeaway things that you go ahead and implement in your especially in the software development process. What are the things that you can directly go and use it? All right. I'll come from the top. No, I do not speak
First,
about.
actually, I
Yeah.
have a small query on the previous
Go
slide.
ahead.
So my it's not like my query, but most of the time we heard this like, okay, now we know that we have, let's say, 5 dependencies or 10 dependencies, right?
Yeah.
Now sometimes people, for whatever reason, right, they I mean, for them it's very difficult to identify which one they have to pick first, or like
Yes.
it's very difficult for them to prioritize it or audit it properly. So do you have
Right.
any suggestion over there, any advice?
Right. Brilliant. Great question. See, there are multiple techniques to do that, right? See, one of the techniques I have put it here, right? Which is a bubble chart technique. Especially, it is. I don't want to make it complex. We rank it, right? 1, 2. In out of 1 and 2, which one do you want to do? Just compare those two, right? If you are picking up one, compare it with the next one. Which one? Okay. This is one type of a technique. And then there is another prioritization technique, which is my favorite, is Moscow. We all know, right? Must do, should do, could do, won't do, right? In that, again, put it, bucket it, which is must do, which is not do, shouldn't do, or won't do, right? And then pick it up from there, right? This is how I bucket the things and pick it up. And if you don't know, even then, you know the techniques also, but you really don't know. Then the question goes back to you. What do you know, or what you want to know before you can go ahead and prioritize? That is the question you should ask yourself. It is like technology, or is it like product knowledge? What is that knowledge? If you gain, you will be able to prioritize. Go gain that knowledge, and you'll be able to do. Gain that knowledge doesn't mean like you have to read, but you can choose a mentor, or you can choose a technically your technical lead, or a product manager. They could help, you know prioritizing this. Hope that helps, Sunan.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you can move on. Thank you.
Brilliant. All right. So metrics, right? Yeah. In this, for software development teams, my favorite technique is or metrics are: look at your cycle time. Hey, what is the time that takes you from start of the activity till the completion? You do it first, and then it is transparently putting in time. You're not putting in time. You have a mechanism in your Jira or any other tool that you use. It is going to calculate your cycle time. Then have a goal, like, how can I reduce it to, if it is X, what can I do differently to make it X minus 1? You are actually innovating, try to innovate your process to reduce your cycle time. And then throughput. During a period of time, how many items are you getting completed? And 3 is number of items in actually work in progress, right? And then one more thing, how many dependencies do you have? Sunanda, right? How many dependencies you have? How do you reduce that, right? Why even after sprint start you have a lot of dependencies? How could you reduce the dependencies and run an autonomous team? What do you need, right? In our team, we have a concept called skills metrics, where we try to upskill people to reduce the other team dependencies, right? And then average age of work items, right? If it is like you have a backlog of items which are like really staying long, why are they staying long? Do you need to cut it down, or that means you have to cleanse the backlog every time? And bugs leak to production. Unit test coverage as a development practice. NPS and ENPS. NPS for product people, ENPS for HRs. How do we improve? Again, you transparently know what is the current rate is, and you put in a target for the next time and get some innovative ways to improve your ENPS. Again, when you measure all this, you are getting data to inspect. Once you start inspecting, you will get ideas to adapt. You start adapting, you have a better tomorrow, right? I do a quick recap. What we learned is empiricism is continuous experimenting and learning. Empiricism works. I have shown you examples where it works, how a kid evolved, how mobile phones evolved, how technology has evolved, and how in a software development process, in a small team, how could we implement it using a Scrum as a framework. And we touched upon like what is the base of all the different frameworks that we see. And then keep an eye on things that stop us to be empirical. That is really, really, really important, right? Our system is a complex system. We have to always keep an eye on that. Measure to visualize the growth. Unless you measure, you will not know, are you on the right track or the wrong track? All right. And then finally, this is a strong statement. This is written by me. Being empirical constantly nurtures and improvises the quality of products, process, and lifestyle. Let us be empirical and let us have a better tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening to me. Sunand, over to you.
Wonderful.
Do you have any
Wonderful.
questions?
Yeah. Now, first of all, I really want to thank you, Parsu. The way you have explained, it's really good, and you have touched base all the important points, which is very important in order to understand the nuances of empirical process. That's really wonderful, Parsu. Really, thank you for this wonderful session. So this session, I'm sure, like, if you really want to understand in depth, this session is definitely going to help you, right? And as and when you will grow in your career, right, these kind of session will really are like an eye opener, I would say. So sometimes you again have to go back to our basics and refresh our learnings, I would say. So this session is of that quality, I would say, for sure. So thanks
Thank
one
you.
more time, and definitely we will love to have more sessions from you on different various topics in future, for sure. The kind of knowledge you have shared is immense, I would say. So thanks again one more time, for sure.
Phenomenal. Thank you very much, Sunand. It was my first experience. I said my travel, right? In 2008, I was stammering on the stage, and today I am in front of
I mean,
you,
no one can believe that.
delivering this,
No one
right?
can believe that.
I yeah, that's how, that's what empiricism teaches us. That's what life teaches us.
Definitely. Okay.
All right.
So with this thought, thanks everyone, and do like and hit subscribe to our channel. So yeah, see you in next session very soon, for sure. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.